Today in Microsoft Flight Simulator, I'm going to take a look at what just might be the most detailed planes in any flight sim. And then we're going to discuss an upcoming full-on fleet management system. Let's jump in. The CRJ is perhaps one of the most talked about upcoming third-party planes for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Developers Aerosoft have been keen to talk about it on a regular basis and haven't shied away from showing their work in progress. On the screen you can see their recently released development images. These were created in 3D Max, so are far from the plane's final form. This week Aerosoft discussed the level of graphical detail that is possible with Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it appears that this is way beyond what is possible with any other flight sim. The developers went into some detail on exactly how this works. Essentially, it comes down to decals, which allow developers to place layered textures one on top of the other. What this means is that artists do not have to rely on singular large-scale textures. Aerosoft went on to explain that a small 1K texture could be applied to an entire wing, then over the top of this texture, smaller layers could then be added. It sounds like an infinite number of these could be applied, as Aerosoft pointed out that the only limitation here is time. An example of the level of detail here is that the CRJ has applied to it individual rivets across the entire plane. Each rivet will be rendered in 3D. Aerosoft even went on to state that if they had so wanted, it would be entirely possible to stamp the individual characters on each of the bowls. But instead they settled on accurately sized rivets. Again, time appears to be the only limitations here. To get an idea of exactly what this means for the final quality of the planes, Aerosoft compared the process of creating a plane in Prepared, and here's where the technology gets truly remarkable. To achieve a similar high-detailed wing in Prepared, a 5GB texture would be required, and to model the same level of detail into a cockpit would require 20GB textures. Clearly, this is unrealistic. In short, Microsoft Flight Simulator can do far more, but with much less. It places the sim in a very unique position, and one which hopefully more developers will take advantage of over the coming months and the coming years. Having these high-detailed aircraft then certainly comes with a lot of benefits. However, there is one downside which, theoretically at least, might be creating liveries for these CRJ. Due to the details on the plane, it will make creating liveries a far more complex process. What effect this ultimately has though, only time will tell. So, with this level of detail possible, you may be wondering why we haven't seen this level of detail in the sim so far. Well, the answer to that is very simple. The level of work required for these takes time. Aerosoft are hoping that they will be able to release the CRJ this year. However, this is contingent on Asobo Studio completing some tasks in the software development kit. Basically, it seems like there may be a few roadblocks there that are still on Asobo's side of things. But as soon as Asobo get this work done, Aerosoft say they will be able to complete the remaining work on the CRJ very quickly. I know that many people are keen to get their hands on a high-quality regional jet, so the sooner the CRJ arrives, the better. Meanwhile, we can continue to keep an eye out for updates from Aerosoft on their forums. For those of you who have been wanting that little bit more in your flight sim, Air Hauler 2 might be exactly what you're looking for. Now, this has been around for a while with XPlane 11 and Prepared, but the good news is that it's just been announced for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just so you can get a feel for the game, I've included a bunch of screenshots here, and these are taken from the Prepared version, or maybe in the XPlane 11 version, one of the other versions anyway, so do keep that in mind. So, what's the deal here? What's it all about? Well, Air Hauler 2 essentially turns your flight sim into Euro Truck Simulator 2, allowing you to create companies, hire fleets of planes, enlist AI and player pilots to complete jobs, buy and sell business interests on the stock market, and yes, even manually fly passenger, cargo and humanitarian missions directly yourself. If this seems like an entirely different game, well, that is essentially because it is. Air Hauler 2 is basically a game that plugs into your chosen flight sim. Many of the actions you might want to complete take place within the Air Hauler 2 interface, and as you can see from these screenshots, there's a lot to it. Essentially then, all the management aspects, that is the planning and the decision making, takes place within the Air Hauler UI. Missions themselves, however, take place within the flight sim itself. Airhauler mods the game in such a way that it allows you to add cargo, passengers and other such things onto your plane. It then monitors your flight, providing tracking and feedback in order to determine your performance. This means that missions can be a complete success or a failure. In the end, what you're left with is a complete overhaul of the flight simulator that very much turns it into a full management sim. Now, if you'd like to see this in action, I've included 2 links in the video description. One is a live stream from the Airhauler developer, the second is a video from YouTuber Blue Games. Both will give you a very good insight into how Airhauler actually works. Right now, there's no information on a release date for the software. However, developers Just Flight have confirmed that Microsoft Flight Simulator will be a standalone edition, separate to the XPlane 11 and prepared versions. Those versions are currently priced at around £33, so it seems likely that the Flight Simulator version will be placed at a similar price. That then brings us to the end of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.